Good evening. Mnasikiaje? Mko poa? Okay, so I'm going to announce the results for the first motion. And the first motion was governments and technology companies have a moral responsibility to safeguard young people mental well-being online. The teams for this particular motion were Toronto FCs, and they were proposing the motion, and they called themselves Hood Boys. Hood Boys, okay. And then we had Chris Mbochi. Chris, where are you? We had Titus Busolo, where is Titus? And Vincent Jr. Then we had Team Underdogs. Where's Team Underdogs? We had Nathaniel Gitu, CJ Osidiana, and George Kimani. Is that right? Yes. So I will first of all start with the comments, and then I announce the winning team. Sawa sawa. Okay. So let me first by saying that both teams did justice to the motion. You all delivered your points very well. However, when we are judging a debate, there are specific things we look out for. You will look out for how you've defined your terms, how you've convinced me as a judge, how you've given your statistics, and if your points are valid to the motion at hand that you're having. So I'll start with, okay, so team proposing, we had the ones who are proposing the motion. They defined their terms, they gave us the examples, they also gave us points, and especially the point on cyberbullying. We felt that you were really convicted with this particular point, and thank you for letting us into this world and also helping us know how this is actually affecting the teenagers, and also the addiction, how people are getting addicted. And I love the example from which game was that? Roblox. Someone gave that out. However, I really wanted you to tell us now, how does the government come in? You understand? Because you're proposing the motion, so you're telling us how the government is going to do what? To help us fix this particular problem. Give us a solution, because you're the one agreeing to this particular motion, which we quite didn't clearly see. Then, for the opposing team, you defined the terms, the first speaker role, you gave out your points, you gave us the statistics. And in this particular team that was opposing, you also gave us point on that, because you were opposing the motion, you told us that sometimes it's not solely about the government. You also faulted the individual, and the example about the government or the technological companies have put in these measures, but then when you go, you click yes, and you know that you're not 18 years. So there were adequate example. You also gave us statistics. You also told us, gave us a solution that while it is a two-way traffic, let the government come in and guide parents on how they can work together to bring out a responsible teenager. So kudos to both teams. We really appreciate the work you've done. And because we always say that at the end of a competition, there must be one winner. But then again, I want to say that all of you are winners, because it takes a lot of courage to stand in front of an audience and actually talk to them for, let's say, 5 minutes. It takes a lot of courage. So keep it up. And drum rolls to the winning team. So help me announce. So this is why you tell me who. So when I say it, help me announce, then you say who. So help me announce the winning team for this particular motion, Team Underdogs.
All right. Thank you, Janet. Congratulations to the team Underdog. So for the second round of semifinals, the motion was youth mental health should be treated among top spiritual and social priorities in Kenya. So in proposition, we had the team, I guess, 67 baby who, or 67, whatever you implied by that, which had Myron, Christine, and Eddie. And then in opposition, we had Target Breakers, which had Millicent, Travis, and David. So within this debate, it was a very interesting conversation that centered on two issues. Number one, why should mental health be treated as a priority? From the team in proposition, they talked about the extent of the harm it has had on society and why that's a national crisis and why it's very underfunded in most instances. In opposition, they explained why it should not be treated as an urgent issue because there are more pertinent issues. So youth are poor and people are suffering via unemployment, healthcare isn't as sufficient. And then the second question that the conversation centered was the efficiency of prioritization. So of prioritization of the mental health issues by, the national government and the church as well in mitigating the health crisis. The opposition had pushback that the church specifically tackling this is bad because they are unexperienced. And their second point of pushback was that communities are culturally wired to look at mental health as being something archaic or something not very good, whereas proposition were able to explain why, to some extent, the church are capacitated to deal with the mental health issue. So that was a very persuasive conversation. So, but at the end of the day, we had to come up with a winner. So drum rolls, please. Drum rolls, drum rolls, drum rolls. So proceeding to the finals, we had the team in proposition, team 6-7, baby who. Congratulations to them. Commiserations to target breakers.
Solutions designed by youth are more likely to actually work in the real life settings because they may have experienced it.
Let's say, for example, I have a problem with my parents. My parents want me to do this subject and I don't want. I can go to my friends and I ask them, how should I talk to my parents? And show them that maybe I have a passion for social sciences or STEM.
Let's observe time kindly. Going over your time is penalized. Let's try and focus on what points actually matter, yeah? And convince us. Okay, so the final motion will be young people should lead youth mental well-being intervention in their generation. Okay? Okay. I guess you can begin now.
And my time starts in 3, 2, 1. Members of the House, worthy opponents, and my teammates. My name is Myron Booker, and I stand before you again to strictly stand on business as the first speaker of team proposition of the motion. Young people should lead youth mental well-being interventions in this generation. First, I would like to say that this is not a point. I just want to put that across. Those closest to the problems should lead the solution. We strongly, I repeat, strongly support this motion. Now I move on to definitions. Young people are those between the ages of 10 and 24. Lead. Leading is taking primary responsibility with support. Interventions. Interventions are actions to improve mental well-being. And the key point, what is mental well-being? A positive state of functioning that goes beyond just the absence of mental illness. I move on to my points. Lived experience creates more effective and targeted solution. Youth face modern, fast, and changing pressure. Social media comparison is one of them. Identity struggles is another. And academic competition is the last one. This is shown by around 75% of mental health conditions beginning before the age of 25. My reasoning here is that mental issues are not just clinical, but they are context-based. Adults may understand the theory, but youth understand triggers, language, real-life experiences. what is the impact of all this? Better understanding leads to more relevant interventions, which leads to higher effectiveness. My conclusion for this point: solutions designed by youth are more likely to actually work in the real life settings because they may have experienced it. I move on to my second point. Peer trust increases access and early intervention. Adolescents are more influenced by peers than authority figures. This evidence is shown by research done by Sarah Jane Blakemore, where it shows that strong sensitivity to peer evaluation is done. My reasoning for this point is that many youth avoid help because of fear of judgment, stigma. Peer-led spaces feel safer and more relatable. The impact of this is that trust leads to openness, which leads to early help, which later leads to prevention of severe cases. My conclusion for this point is that youth leadership doesn't just improve solutions, it increases access to them. I would like to finish by saying, for solutions that truly work, youth must lead and we must stand together in support. Thank you.
And my time begins in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gents, I am back. Audience, my fellow opponents, my teammates, we, the house, the opposition house, are here. First, I'd like to start with a quote. All of us have heard of the proverb, the one-eyed man is the king of the blind. Unfortunate as it is, but it is the truth. For even an old man has better depth perception than a mono-eyed gentleman. Thus, instead of the blind leading the blind, we thus oppose the motion young people should lead legal. We thus oppose the motion young people should lead youth mental well-being interventions in the generation. I'd like to give you my solitary points, which is young people should not lead mental health interventions. Young people should not lead because mental health interventions require expertise, stability, and accountability that they may not have yet possessed. Leadership in mental health equals high-risk responsibility. Mental health interventions are not just conversations or awareness campaigns. They often involve, one, identifying the serious conditions. An example could be an anxiety disorder, and two, knowing how and when to de-escalate these cases. Now, these are high-stakes scenarios where mistakes can have real irreversible consequences. In high-risk fields, responsibility must align with competence, not just reliability. Peer reliability does not equate to authority and reliability. Yes, young people may be relatable, but relatability does not ensure accuracy, it does not ensure consistency, and it does not ensure accountability. Peers may reinforce harmful norms. As we say nowadays, they're doing it, it's okay, it's fine, everyone's doing it. 2, hesitate to report issues. 3, avoid difficult truths to protect friendships. We've all done this before. You have a hard truth about your friend, but you're protecting it because you care so much about them. It blinds your accuracy to actually act on the matter. This creates a system where problems are minimized rather than addressed. Yes, youth perspectives are essential, but leadership without structures risks turning intervention into inconsistency. A better model A better model is supported participation, not leadership. Opposition doesn't reject youth involvement, it reframes it. Young people should, 1, co-design, 2, advise, 3, participate. Why? Because it creates a stronger system. 1, combined expertise plus lived experience, reduces risk and maintains accountability. Now, this is my appeal. There's a difference between being closest to the problem and being equipped to handle the problem. Proximity gives insight, but solving complex, sensitive issues requires preparation, training, and resilience. My closing statement. If we place leadership in the hands of those still navigating their own mental health journeys, we risk turning support into strain and care into confusion. The goal is not to exclude young people, it is to protect them by ensuring that those who lead are not only passionate, but prepared. Thank you.
I would like my time to begin in 3, 2, 1. I want to start by rebutting the first speaker of your side. The opposing argues that the youth lack expertise. However, leadership doesn't exclude professional. It combines lived experience with expert guidance, ensuring both relevance and safety, which means youth to youth, we understand each other. We go through similar things, we go through similar pains, but just in different areas. Okay, we go through the same thing, but in different situations, in different ways. In the end of it all, we somehow come and relate to each other. We somehow come together and we're able to relate to our issues. So I feel like if I was going through something personally, I would run to my friends first. I would ask for their guidance and see, is it relevant? Does it help? And of course, I will pick 2 or 3 solutions that I can use to face this issue. Let's say, for example, I have a problem with my parents. My parents want me to do this subject and I don't want. I can go to my friends and I ask them, how should I talk to my parents? And show them that maybe I have a passion for social sciences or STEM, or social sciences, not STEM. How will I go to my parents and I show them, I have a passion for this. And I feel like my friends will help me because most probably they are going through the same thing. Their parents are forcing them to do this, but they want to do this. Those are my peers, and yet they are still youth. So I feel like they can really help. And also, youth relates better to youth, as I said. Young people open up to their age. If we check, let's say, for example, I know some of you guys here are parents. If you have maybe a teenager, they come to you. Will they really come to you first? Or will they go to their friends, someone who's their age? They go to them and tell them, oh, I'm facing this and this. How do I solve it? Then, maybe if I see like, okay, I've reached the end point, let me search for more. That's when I can go to my parents, or I can go to the youth, to the pastors, sorry. So I feel like going to people who are more of your age, the youth, basically, people who understand you, can really help you. And also, another point to back up what I've said is youth understand challenges more accurately. Let's say, what challenge do we face the most? It's maybe peer pressure. If we look at the numbers right now, a lot of teens are into drugs and substance abuse, which is very true. So let's say I have a friend who doesn't do drugs, and maybe I do drugs. and I want to stop, I would go to my friend and I would ask them, by the way, how do you do this? How do you stay without doing drugs? How do you survive? I would go to them first. I wouldn't go to the hospital and I'll be like, oh, no, go to the rehabilitation center and be like, oh, I do drugs. I want help. No, I'll go to my friend first who doesn't do, and I'll ask them, by the way, unafanyanga hii kitu aje? Unakaaje? Unaishi aje? Because they will understand how to help me. They'll be like, okay, the first thing you need to do is cut off the influence that I'm making you do this. So I really feel like the youth understand it better than going to someone who's maybe more older than you. Because of course, say if you look at the millennials, watakuwa like, umeambia mamako, ndakuchapa wewe. So of course, utaogopa. At the end of the day, utaogopa kuenda. Utaangalia mtu wako rika yako. So like, that's what I'm trying to say. That's the message I'm trying to pass. And my team and I, we strongly try to pass that message out to our fellow youth and our fellow teens. Thank you.
I would like my time to start in 3, 2, 1. Honorable judges, worthy opponents, my fellow teammates, and the exciting crowd, good afternoon. I am here to oppose the motion that youth should lead youth-led mental health well-being initiatives. And for that, I would like to state my first point, that I think directly counteracts the points they've given so far. That is, clinical competence cannot be replaced by youth enthusiasm. Has any of us heard this joke that our mothers go and switch between you're a grown person now and you're not grown enough yet, whenever it conveniences them, yeah? This is because through research we could see that in research by Blakemore and Mills in 2014 demonstrates that the prefrontal cortex, government judgment, impulse control, and risk assessment is not fully developed until the mid-20s. They are right, but we don't know it. Entrusting the design and leadership of our mental health interventions to people whose neurological capacity for clinical judgment is still maturing is a structural risk, not just an individual one. Yes, what they have said is true. Many youth trust and understand each other better. Well, I'm not here to refute that. What I am here to refute is that they should lead. Because if we look at it, a 2021 analysis of peer support programs in adverse events in the Journal of Mental Health found the most common risk event was a peer supporter who, after hearing a friend's disclosure of suicide ideation, provided inappropriate reassurance, like, I'm sure you won't do it. That delayed professional intervention. The supporter acted with love, but failed to act with knowledge. The gap between the two is clinical training, which cannot be shortcut by good intentions. This is true. Sometimes you might, some of us have those friends who have the most outrageous views in life, but when you go to them for advice, it sounds really good. Unfortunately, sometimes this is due to inexperience, and delaying professional help might just cause the worst case scenario. Here, compassion without competence in medicine is not care, it's a risk. For example, if we have a trainee nurse who does not know how to get the veins right, it's very likely that someone can get hurt, or the needle might break, or you might poke an artery and someone bleeds out. My next point would be, the The most vulnerable young people are not reached by youth-led models. Youth-led mental health interventions typically reach young people who are socially connected, school attending, and in communities where peer networks function. The most vulnerable, those in street situations, those who have dropped out, those who are in abusive family environments, are precisely those who peer-led models have the least reach, but should have the most. Professional outreach-oriented and adult-led interventions are specifically designed for these populations. We can see a 2023 needs assessment by Befrienders Kenya found that street-connected youth in Nairobi, approximately 60,000 young people, had virtually no access to mental health support, including peer-based programs in street contexts. Because of this, we can see that young people who are sleeping outside, for them, peer-based programs might not work as well because their priority is where are we getting the next meal. These networks eventually collapse and dissolve very quickly. And my final point, intergenerational wisdom is a biblical resource. Youth leadership should not bypass it. If we can check, Titus 2:3-7 calls older believers to teach younger ones, a model of intergenerational transmission that is not only advisory, but formational. The early church deliberately connected young leaders to older mentors. For example, we could see throughout his journey, Paul led and helped the younger people of his generation to be new leaders. He did not just leave them to lead themselves. Yes, thank you.
Honorable adjudicators, worthy opponents, and my fellow teammates. Good afternoon again. My name is Eddie Travis, and I'm here to strongly propose the motion, young people should lead youth mental well-being interventions in their generation. So, now, in an intervention, it's people who come to create awareness. Have you ever been, for example, these job intervention, stuff like that? Like these people who come to, have you seen these China guys? Actually, here some other time back, I came here with my father. They came here to spread awareness about what they're doing and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily mean treating. It doesn't necessarily mean coming to fix the problem themselves. It's more like the peer is the one who invites the person through the door to come to the doctor, because it is leading interventions, not leading the treatment itself. Also, Speaker One mentioned that we youth already are going through a lot of many different things and may not have the capacity to do these kinds of things because we don't have that kind of wisdom and stuff like that. But that is exactly the problem. Our youth these days are not being empowered enough that to the point where they can do these kinds of things. Once we make this official that youth are the ones leading these kinds of things, we give them adequate training to be able to handle these kinds of situations so that when they can go out there, they can be able to produce the right results. Because it is, as the motion states, it is not saying that young untrained people should be the ones to lead these kinds of interventions. Young people can also be trained. Who is to say that they cannot be trained? The motion does not say that, does it? Who is to say that we cannot teach these people how to handle these kinds of situations? But now when we teach them, it helps empower them more than someone who is older, for example. I can even take an example of the church. When you see people coming here for classes, for example, now for us teens class, we have people who are younger, according to around our age now. They're trained, aren't they? They're trained to help us. It's not that they're very old or anything like that. They're still a part of youth. Like Pastor Deco is still a part of youth, although that's still very debatable due to his age. But yeah, as you can see, I'm trying to pass a point. Because, for example, only someone who understands a motorcycle can be able to help a motorist fix the cycle or learn how to ride their motorcycle. So once we train our youth, we'll be able to empower them to be able to help other fellow youth. Also, who is to say that youth cannot do these kinds of things? The Bible says in 1 Timothy 4:12, let no one despise your youth. Be an example of your faith and belief to the world. The Bible itself, this is a Christian debate. The Bible itself is supporting, saying that the youth should go out there and spread the faith of God. For example, now this is where the awareness comes in. Hey, I'm a believer of God. We're age mates, right? Tuelewane hivi. So, man, you see me, I'm not age mate. It's not a thing for old people. Even I'm doing it. Even I used to be this kinds of way, and I understand your kinds of problems. For example, if I go to my parents and tell them I'm having problems with my gaming or whatever, I'm having problems with my game. Even though they're trained in the Nini, they won't be able to really understand it as someone who is a gamer, for example. Like example, Fortnite. If they're telling them I'm cracking a 90, they won't really understand what that is. Even though they start playing Fortnite, there's some things that only someone who actually does these kinds of things can be able to understand. Because academic knowledge cannot replace the... Why am I handwriting? Cannot replace the internal understanding of a certain topic. So that's why I am here to strongly, very, very strongly propose the motion that young people should lead youth mental well-being interventions in their generation. And I've already backed it up with the Bible itself. Thank you very much. May God bless you
all. Before my time starts, I'm here with another analogy, another example that I want to give. There's a story, or rather a research that shows there's a guy who went to the military, right? And this man decided to interview some of the military veterans. So there was this new man, a young boy who suffered what we'd call post-traumatic war trauma, where he went through war and he felt its effects, and he was drafted into the war and eventually became a soldier. Then we have a war veteran who has experienced wars for a very long time. When asked what was the main difference in coaching young soldiers between the one who has experienced war for many years and the one who was drafted into war after experience, the main point that was drawn out is the fact that the war veteran has experienced more, has lived more, and has been able to adapt more to changing wars as he has gone through in life, right? So as I begin my time in 3, 2, 1, we as side opposition are not here to remove the youth from the story. We are here to show that adulthood should take center stage because of the wisdom and experience that they have had for the many years they have coached. So I'd like to ask a question. In high schools, who are the counselors in high schools? Who are the peer counselors? The one who listen to the teens' problems and solve their solutions? It's not other teens. It's not other teens. It's the older generation, the over the 50, the over 60, the over 40. It's not young people because they have the experience to deal with their problems because they have lived for such a long time. So let's break this down. Side proposition has spoken a lot that those who have experienced certain situations are the ones who should lead. That those who have undergone are the ones who have better solutions. And there is a fear of judgment of the authoritative figure. But how is this so? 70% of experienced therapists are of older generation who have adapted to the changing times in order to solve current teen mental health issues. It shows that out of youth-led interventions and therapy that has been existing for over 50 years, 60% of cases solved are from the older generation. Even though they may not have experienced the intense situations that we are in, mental health is the same across all generations. And the facts show for themselves, 60% from the older generation. 70% of them actually solve teen issues than the youth-led interventions because empowerment is different than education. Expression is different than experience, right? They are known to be understanding, compassionate, and provide a safe space. So that means if you go to a therapist constantly, he understands you, he's compassionate, he makes you comfortable. What fear of judgment do you have, right? What fear of judgment do you have? Why are you scared of that authoritative figure if you feel comfortable enough to repeat your problems to him over and over again? I'll give an example of the story of Icarus, how he flew too close to the wind, too close to the sun. Icarus's father told him, your wings are made of wax. So if you get close to the sun, your wings will melt. When Icarus flew, he felt the experience of flying, something his father never experienced. He felt the heat of the sun, something his father never experienced. But what happened? Because he's in this stage of continuous growth, because he's a youth transitioning, he flew too close and fell. Why? Even though he experienced more than his father did, he did not have the mindset to focus on his goal. He instead looked up, flew up, and came crashing down. That's why we, as side opposition, strongly believe that the adulthood should take center stage in guiding youth to better mental health standing, while also collaborating with youth so that they are able to attract more like-minded people who are suffering just as them, to use center spaces that have more experience in education. Just as my first speaker said, we're not here to discard the youth, we're here to collaborate. So I'm going to give 3 situations that show that we as a proposition have won this debate. The impact. Youth-led mental health interventions typically reach young people who are socially connected, who are in schools, and may not reach those who are in the far reach of the country, Wajir, West Pokot, or the edges of the country. As my second speaker said, the professional-led outreach and adult-led intervention are specifically designed to reach those at the farthest corner, those at the border, those teenagers who are suffering way out there, which shows that professional outreach has the funding and the capability to have a widespread impact. The severity. Adult expertise and clinical competence cannot be replaced by the youth. Trained supervisors have ethical guidelines, they have safeguarding protocols and liability structures. If they fail, what they have is something we call accountability pathways, regulatory bodies that are able to sustain them if they fall. But you look at youth-led interventions. Youth-led interventions don't have a buffer, which means if youth-led interventions failed, they have ambiguous accountability, which means their effects are left there for all to experience, while the older generation have a system whereby they are carried by their experience, by their skill, or by their wisdom. So clinical competence of adult-led organizations with the ability to recognize risk, respond to crisis, and avoid harm to maintain appropriate boundaries and surpasses the young people's enthusiasm and proximity, which shows that even though these young people are able to draw in more people with their proximity, with their trust, you cannot ignore the experience of a war veteran, one who has gone through so much and so much. So what is our verdict? Even though the youth-led interventions are faster, foster proximity, trust, and openness, we have to agree that adult intervention boasts more effective, well-managed, and accountable results. Look at the 70%. Thank you for your time.
Okay, and now for the reply segment. 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
So I'd like to start my time in 3, 2, 1. I stand here before you to show you why we as an opposition have won the debate. If you look at the points you have given, we have made sure to highlight the importance of youth-led intervention, how they're able to bring proximity, trust, and relatable teenagers to the table. And we have also brought out the underlying case that adult-led intervention has more experience, time frame, and boasts better effectiveness. So we have, as side opposition, not only have we not neglected the youth, but we have shown how we can collaborate while still maintaining the effective and stronger strength of youth-led interventions. They spoke about the fear of judgment, authoritative power, but we have shown how therapists are understanding, compassionate, caring. They have shown how youth are better able to give solutions to problems that they have experienced, but we have shown how adults today are able to adapt to the changes, are able to understand and identify youth mental health cases and mental health issues, and have been able to change their trajectory. Why? Because they have been adapting for as long as they have been alive. The problems that they experienced when they were a child and when they were adults were different. So they have been adapting, which means we have shown that they are capable of adapting to our problems, understanding them, and solving our issues. I'd also like to say that we as side opposition have shown how adulthood can extend to the farthest corners of the earth, which is basically by outreach, funding, experience, all these things. While youth-led interventions can only work if they're supported by adult-based structure. So we as side proposition agree on the fact that we have won this debate because we have not only brought out the collaboration with youth, but have shown the strength, the underlying strength, and the unadulterated strength of youth-led and of adult-led interventions. Thank you for your time.
So, I am back very much again. And I'd like to first of all start by addressing the third speaker. The third speaker said that his last sentence, actually, his second to last or third to last, or his last statement was that the youth-led interventions cannot work without an adult-based structure, which is true, yeah, and that's exactly what we're saying, because as he said, they must be at the center. But at the center, you have to have someone at the front. What is leading? Leading is like saying, I am a leader, I lead, it didn't even say lead by, like leading at the forefront. Like, for example, back in the days when they used to go for war, the leader of that of those guys is the one who's usually at the front. The leader is the one at the front, Cindy. So leading doesn't necessarily mean being the only guys there. Yes, we agree, we need the adults to back us up. But that doesn't mean that we must have the adults in front. Leading is being at the front. So at the forefront, we have the youth who have been helped by the adults. As he said, the youth cannot succeed without getting help from the adults. And being at the forefront, being helped by the adults, will help empower these fellow youth to be able to reach out to the community effectively and very nicely. Also, as he said, they need to have structured systems, which is exactly what I said before. So I'm failing to understand, are you really on our side or are you on that side? Because as I said, we help these youth by formalizing these kinds of systems. And he says you can't work without systems. And I already mentioned, we're supposed to empower the youth. Leading doesn't necessarily mean we just take a random youth. We take them, we instruct them, we teach them. We create a system for them that can work, that can help them to be able to reach out to their fellow youth. This doesn't necessarily mean just taking untrained people, as I said before. So our third speaker here, who was also a reply speaker, has been agreeing with me this entire time. So I'm failing to understand why we should let them win. And he might as well just come and join us on the seat on this table on this other side. Thank you very much. May you have a good time.
A clap to the finalists.